Hello everyone, I'm Beatrice Galimberti. I'm a student of the PhD program in Urban Planning Design and Policy of Politecnico di Milano, and my research is concerning the role played by uncertainty in the design process of public spaces in Europe. And well, uncertainty and crisis are two keywords of our key time. They are almost sister, let's say. And that's why today I'm asking in front of you, what do you have to be careful about public space in the age of planetary crisis? Well, indeed, our current age of planetary crisis is a composite state, which is consisting of overlapping crises, which are expanding at different speeds. Roughly speaking, some of them are fast evolving crises, while others are slow evolving crises. Let's compare them to diseases. So, if we consider one by one each pandemic, each wildfire, etc., well, these are all examples of fast evolving issues, and they are like a stroke, which, when it arrives, immediately shows its effects. The responses to fast evolving issues are mostly limited to that specific issues, neglecting its interdependency with other crises. But if we work in this sense, the next stroke is just around the corner. Well, climate change and progressive erosion of social cohesions are examples of slow evolving issues, similar to a long degenerative disease, whose effects are at first mild, thus often neglected, and the risk is not to feel the emergency. Moreover, actions in response to them rarely bring results in the short term. But as researchers and reflective practitioners, we ought to be aware and careful about the actions taken in response to fast evolving issues. Indeed, these rapid actions can be counterproductive in the long run. For example, facial masks are super useful against COVID, but they pollute the environment if not disposed properly. And let's consider the fast evolving issues of the COVID-19. Well, stay-at-home orders temporarily introduced restriction in the use of public spaces. Within the same area, the restrictions are the same for everybody, but not all the population is equally equipped to live in a quarantine situation, nor to access public space and services. So how to avoid answer to this fast-growing issue which damage rights such as the equal access of public spaces in cities? Well, I argue we need to be vigilant and keep working on the foundational issues of urban public space in our age of planetary crisis. Within my PhD, I'm working on the definition of the topicality of public space. Some of the aspects which emerged are foundational aspects, so are basic aspects which respond to fundamental human rights, as the one listed. And here I want to focus on the control in public space. And, well, actually, control is not a new argument for studies on the production and management of public space. It has many forms. That's the digital-phygital one. Well, in connection to the disruptive spread of ICTs in the last 15 years, new forms of control have emerged. They are based on digital and phygital, which is the union of the word physical and digital, forms of control and so means of surveillances. These are new forms that can be grouped, let's say, in two main families. Well, the first family is the one of locative media. For example, personal devices as smartphones, watches, and tablets using GPS can be vehicles of unprecedented modes of surveillance connected to privacy and control. But actually, we explicitly give our consent to be tracked by location-aware technologies. Well, the second family is concerning the digital coding of discrete population, so facial recognition systems, for example, which pervade public spaces and particularly privately owned public spaces. Well, their use is not only for security issues, but more and more also for collecting information on users and for commercial activities surrounding public space. And unlike the locative medians, no consent is asked. To give an idea of the scale of the phenomenon, in 2019, London had more than 600,000 surveillance cameras, becoming the third largest city in the world in terms of quantity of cameras, and many of them use the digital coding of discrete population. So in addition to these forms of direct control, there's a second level of control on which it is more difficult to be vigilant. Mirko Zardini calls it the control of data and manipulation of behavior, and Shoshana Zuboff emphasized that the real crux of the matter is who uses data and how. So this is an issue for which national and international law are still loose, struggling to keep up with the pace of ICT's evolution. And, well, this type of control especially proliferates in public spaces and privately owned public spaces. It becomes a real and relevant issue to be careful about for architecture and urbanism researchers and practitioners in the way we inquire and shape public space and in the way we interact with stakeholders of the project. And so after that, let's pass to conclusions. So when fast-evolving issues almost monopolize the public discussions, as practitioners and researchers, we need to remain even more aware of foundational spatial needs and rights. This is an ethical and deontological issue, but does it concern only practitioners? Well, as today, practitioners are increasingly called curators, facilitators, which feeds and support the design process in which other actors are involved as civil servants, activists, engaged citizens, other practitioners, etc. Well, altogether we must be vigilant on these aspects, and architects and urbanists are called to become curators of this collective ethical carefulness. And this is an effort that requires an inevitable shift from the current education and practice of architecture and urbanism. And thank you so much for your attention.